Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, and perhaps you can tell from the background that I'm finally back home again. And we have traversed quite a number of the U.S. states on our trip. I'm just going to go through the list of all of them that we passed through and some that we stayed at for a little while and visited in. So we went through New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, and spent the first night in Tennessee. Or did we spend the first night in Kentucky? I can't remember anymore. Anyway, then we went to Alabama and spent a day or so there. Then to Mississippi and spent, about 4 or 5 days with Mark's friend. And I was on Mark's schedule, not my own, so it was very tiring, mostly because of all the traveling. And from Mississippi, we went to the Ozarks, and that was quite an interesting environment. Really, Arkansas is quite pretty. And when we left Arkansas, we traveled through Missouri. And I was surprised that Missouri was as pretty as it was as well. I was not aware that it was also in the Ozarks and very similar to Arkansas in many ways. And then we went on our way home through Illinois, Indiana, back through Ohio again, and through Michigan, and finally Ontario. And of course we got home and we were exhausted. I'm not saying we did that all in one day. It's from Arkansas, I believe it's 17 hours or over 17 hours to get home. On the pleasant note, we had no issues with the border folks, either coming into the U.S. or coming back to Canada. So that was always pleasant. Nobody held us up or sent us to secondary or any of that nature, although we've been through those issues in the past for one reason or another. Not often, but on occasion you get stopped. And yeah, it was a very pleasant trip, a lot easier than the last one. I learned not to unpack and to live out of my suitcase, which certainly made everything a lot less stressful. So anyway, I'm home. I apologize if I've been unable to keep up with you and post regularly. As I say, I was not on my schedule, and by the time we stopped for the night and had dinner, sometimes I was just far too exhausted. But back to our regular schedule. We arrived last night and of course just had dinner and went to sleep, even though it was early. And this morning, of course, the first thing I had to do was top up the fridge. And fortunately, I had not left too much of anything, like there were no eggs, no milk. Well, there was maybe a very small amount of milk, and that had to be tossed out. And the mayonnaise that I had made earlier, tossed out, but that was about it. I think everything else, I'd cleared the fridge before we left so that there was not too much to deal with that had to be thrown away. So after I had done a little bit of grocery shopping, I did go and check out my garden, and the wonderful lady who offered to water my plants while I was gone had done a very thorough job. I think she even watered it this morning, which was very nice. She wasn't there when I arrived, but my garden was nice and soaked, and I did lose some potatoes to potato bugs, but she had offered to water, and that was more than one could expect. And I managed to pull a few weeds while the ground was nice and soaked. Certainly makes it easier when it's wet. Okay, so well, that's it. I'm home. Hopefully I'll be able to start more regular videos again. I found even though I was eating more than usual on this trip, I didn't gain any weight, so I'm quite happy with that. We had a fair bit of Mexican, and I think I'm beginning to have an appreciation for salsa and chips. I have never made salsa. I've just bought the occasional jar here and there,
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good so far.
How long were you outside of Canada?
About 12 days. We left it'll be 2 weeks this Tuesday.
And what was the purpose of the trip?
Just tourism. Went down and visited a friend in Memphis and toured through some of the southern states.
Did you buy or receive anything that's coming home with you?
Yeah. I bought a skinning knife, and my wife bought what did you buy?
A cast iron cornbread.
Cast iron cornbread
An
pan.
antique cast iron cornbread.
You're all set.
Okay,
Great day.
thanks very much.
Thank you.